All right, we are recording. So we'll go ahead and get started today. So first, let me say thank you to everyone that joined us today. This is a training on just really growing your real estate business. If you don't know me, my name is Andrea Wilson. I'm actually the real estate broker over at Brick House Realty. And we just wanted to provide some training, not to just our agents, but to all agents in the marketplace as we begin to plan and prepare for 2021. It's going to be here before you know it. I was talking to some agents earlier today, and when we were looking at our closed transactions, and in another couple of weeks, they're going to start dipping into 2021. So it's crazy to think about how we had to plan for 2021 business, and we're almost out of time for 2020. Wanted to bring in an expert in this industry to help share some tips with all of us. So please, Jacqui, introduce yourself to everyone here.
Sure, absolutely. So I am Jacqui Bowman. I've been a real estate agent since 2004, and I've worked in the Akron, Cuyahoga Falls, Stowe area. I currently live in Kent. And so a quick little bio, I was the manager of a Keller Williams office for about 3 years. I've been to several different brokerages as a sales manager, productivity coach, director of education, whatever you want to call it. But for the past 3 years, I've worked for myself and opened my own national coaching business. So I coach top agents all over the country, Alaska, California, Connecticut, Florida, all over. So that's what I do in the privacy of my own home. So I've been doing Zoom for about 3 years. So this is what I do all day long. So it's all good. So I'm glad to share just a little bit of my knowledge and what I do differently with all of you. So cool. Thanks for having me, Andrea. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Okay. So I came up with a list of questions for Jacqui that I hear time and time again. And then if you guys have any questions, feel free to type it in the chat and we will definitely answer those questions as well. So the first question that I want to kind of dive into that I have here is, what are some of the biggest challenges agents are seeing when starting out in the business? I guess we'll start there and talk to some of the newer agents that may be in the business.
Absolutely. So the biggest challenge I see that I think a lot of times they are not seeing, right? They're not realizing that this is a challenge, but it really is. You'll meet someone like Andrea, you'll meet someone like myself, or you'll meet another top agent in your marketplace and they're like, oh, I do the best open houses. This is all you need to do and you're going to be successful. And then you meet someone else and they're like, listen, girl, you got to do expireds. They're amazing. I'm so great at them. Let me show you what I do. Right. And then someone else says, oh, you have to do for sale by owners and you have to do this. And so you have all of these different ideas. And what I think new agents are mostly challenged with is they're looking for a black and white answer. They're looking for, what do I do? What do I not do? And I think I like to reach inside of them and really dig deep and have them have confidence in themselves to choose what type of business they want to grow. And this is the most important, I think, thinking about what would you like to be doing every day for the next 15 years? If it's door knocking, bless your heart, go do it, right? So there's all these different things that you can do immediately when growing your business, but then picking and choosing which ones are going to stick with you and your personality and be most effective for you for 15, 20 years to come, right? Yes. So I think experimenting with all different things for a minute and then getting laser focused on what you're choosing and how you're choosing to grow your career. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. But what I will ask you as a follow-up to that, what about, so you kind of said they need to pick a niche in some regards, right? So how do you get an agent to get past the mindset of, well, if I pick a niche, then I'm going to be cutting out a group of people, or I'm going to be missing out on these other opportunities that are out there. So how do you get past that piece of it?
What's that quote? I'm going to totally screw it up because I don't know what it is. But it's like when you focus on many, many different things, you're a master of none. What is that quote? Anybody know? Unmute yourself. I forget what it is. But when you focus on 10 different things.
Is it a jack of all trades, but master of none?
Yes. Woo. You got it. Thank you. Thank you, Tamika. Yeah. If you're a jack of all trades, you're a master of none, right? So you're not going to be doing well at the 12 different things that have been proven to work in real estate. Does that make sense? So I think it's good for agents to experience and experiment with the different things, right? And then really look at themselves and say, okay, based on, and you know, frankly, it does matter based on my age, because we've got new agents coming into the business that are 55, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've got new agents coming in the business that are 20. Okay. So look at my age, look at my sphere, look at my personality, who I am. What would be most effective for me over the next 10 to 15 years that I could focus on and see myself doing every day and doing it with passion, right? It doesn't mean door knocking and for sale by owners and expireds and all of those things don't work. They absolutely do. And if you have zero business right now, absolutely experiment with them, try them out, and do what you need to do to start building your business. But just realize that at some point you're going to probably need to focus or niche down on one thing. And I know that Andrea knows my opinion on where that focus should be. And we'll talk about that in a little bit when we talk about transactional business versus relationship-based business, because I totally believe in a relationship-based business. But yeah, I think there's no right answer for each person. Tamika might choose one avenue. Shauna might choose a different avenue, right? And they're going to both work for them. And they're not going to look at each other like, well, you should be doing your business this way, right? And so one of the things we talked about when we went to lunch was the shoulds, right? In our mind, we have all these things that we feel like we should be doing as real estate agents, and we beat ourselves up. And we feel so guilty for all the things we should be doing because everyone says, you should be doing this. But I always tell people, quit shooting on yourself and open your mind to what you could be doing that's in alignment with who you are and that you could do for the next 10 years at a high level.
Right. Okay. So my next question I'm going to lead into is about agents scaling their business, right? So that kind of goes into that part we talked about a couple ways that they can get some business. Now they have a little bit of business. They figured out what their method is. And then now how do we get to that next level of scaling our business?
So when you are finding that you're working from 8 in the morning until 11 o'clock at night, it's time to look for some leverage and look for some help in your business. And I always like to help agents realize that they are leaders, right? If they weren't leaders, people wouldn't be following them and asking them to do their real estate business, right? Or choosing them as a realtor. So I always, I have a little different philosophy on things when it comes to growing teams. I do a lot of my national coaching is all about solo agents leveraging themselves and going to the next level without growing a team. I prefer to surround myself with agents who are looking for opportunities, and I have them show properties for me. I leverage out my contract to close and things like that. So there's a lot of different things that we could talk about. I don't know how deep you want me to go into this, but I would say anyone that's doing really well at sales in the face-to-face with people, they would want to leverage out that paperwork piece first. I personally pay $300 a transaction to not touch my paperwork. And so I don't have to talk to a lender, a title company. They also talk to my client throughout the process. So it allows me that mind space and that freedom and that rest to be open to converting more leads, because I truly feel when agents are busy from 8 in the morning until 11 o'clock at night, they're subconsciously repelling business they could have because they're so busy. And it's really preventing you from going to the next level.
Yeah, I would agree with that. A lot of times, just had a conversation, you talk to and they're like, oh, I'm busy. But and I had to mention to an agent here, take this form and really just write down what your business, what you have. What do you have? Because in your mind, a lot of times you think, I'm so busy, I have all this business. But when you really go to write it down, you're like, oh, I really don't have as much going on, but you're just filling that time with like busy work than anything.
Right. There's a difference between busyness and business,
Right.
right? Busyness and business are two different things. But I will tell you, if you're like me, if you don't have a 7-ring circus going on all at once, this is psychological and emotional. I don't feel as worthy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what happens is I tend to fill my schedule with things that are not in alignment with where I'm going to feed my ego and make myself feel like I'm being productive when it's really not helping me get paid and bring money to my family. That makes sense?
Yes.
So that would be a little side note for any of you that are feeling really, really, really busy, but you're not getting closings. It's like you've got to shave off a lot of those things that make us feel good about ourselves and come back to focus of what's the most effective thing Jacqui, could do to grow my real estate business and get more leads.
Right. Okay.
Right.
So one of the things you kind of touched on it a little bit, and you talked about a solo agent versus a team agent.
Mhm.
So oftentimes in the marketplace, we'll see people are kind of pushed in that direction of working a team versus being a solo agent. Can you talk about that? Some of the pros and cons and those benefits.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So in my experience, especially being at Keller Williams, which by the way, I love Keller Williams, even though I'm not there anymore. There's an everybody's heard of the MREA Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, the red book, right? And I taught out of that book for years. And it is all about growing a team and growing a team model and elevating yourself till you're like not really in the business, but you're still making money, right? And I think that is great. And it's really good for some, but I feel that it's not good for most. It's
I
good
agree
for
with you.
some, but not good for most. Okay. So once I kind of exited that environment, it really opened my mind to using my heart when I was coaching other agents. And it's like, if I was coaching Andrea, I would look at Andrea's business, look at who she's surrounding herself with, and say, what would be best for Andrea if we didn't have any other models to follow and we could create our own model? What would be best for her to do? And recreate or reinvent what success looks like instead of just holding that team as pinnacle success. And what I have found consistently is finding top agents in the marketplace, or as agents are going to that next level, there are new agents coming into the business under you that they just want to unlock doors. They just want to help you and be next to you so they can get some of your energy, some of your knowledge. And what I found when you talk about the pros and cons, if we take that new agent and say, oh, join my team, you're pretty much marrying that person, right? And in a marriage, what happens is that new buyer's agent has all of these expectations of you as the leader, right? And you have to provide like a mama bear for this person, right? But not only that, you're like if I'm going to provide for you, I have these expectations of you. And so I feel like that relationship, when you sign a team agreement like that, it creates expectations on both sides. And I feel that all of those emotions and all of those expectations get in the way of actually doing business.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I actually keep that relationship close, right? With several agents. I might surround myself with 2 or 3 new agents. And in my own mind, I'll say, I, Jacqui Bowman, am no longer showing homes on the evenings and weekends. And I have these 3 agents in my marketplace that I partner with to help me show properties. And I tell people that at the buyer consult. And then those agents are there wanting the opportunity. And I pay a per showing. Sometimes I pay between 15 and 30% of the transaction just based on how I set that up in the beginning. And that's a whole nother story. But by not bringing them on my team, I'm encouraged to help them grow and help them fly and just associate myself with another new agent to plug in there, if that makes any sense. So it's really about being a true leader.
Yep.
And being able to pivot your business, you as the leader having the autonomy to change your mind at any moment, pop up and say, I'm moving to Florida, and you're not disappointing anybody because you didn't sign them up.
Yeah.
Right? So it's about all of these obligations. If you can do away with the obligations and focus on opportunities to work together, I think it's much better. It's a much better situation.
I do too. I've seen agents who have lost their identity, completely lost their identity by going into a team, to find out the team didn't work for them, to really having to start all over, right? So they thought that they were gaining momentum by taking that method, but then it really just set you back, versus if you would have just worked on yourself to begin with and build a little bit slower, but at the end results will be so much more rewarding in terms of that.
Exactly. So if I'm a new agent and Andrea is a top agent and she says she wants to grow a team, and I'm like, Andrea, I would love to be on your team because I want to learn from you and I want to do all of these things. But in the back of my mind, eventually I want to grow my own business. Me joining Andrea's team, if I'm there for 2 years, that's 2 years that I have not grown my own brand and my own business. And that is 2 years behind now that I am on my 5-year or my 10-year goal. I truly believe that. However, there are some agents that never want to grow their own brand.
Yeah.
They never want to do their own business, and they're okay with taking leads and having like almost an employee job with a team leader.
Mm-hmm.
I'm totally cool with that.
Right.
As long as that's who you are, right? But most of us think we need to join a team because we need to shadow someone. We need them to help us and show us how they grew their business. And that's actually not what you get when you're on a team.
Right.
You get a lot of, you get leads, or maybe you don't even get leads and they're expecting you to lead generate for them. So it's really a situation where it has to be ideal. And like I said, it's not a wrong model. It's just not ideal for most agents.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's take it back a little bit. You kind of talked about how we lead generate, how do we grow our business.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about kind of that relationship building piece
Mm-hmm.
of it. So how do we build relationship? Where do we go? Where do we find? Is it always cold calling and the grind, the daily hustle, or is there an easy way to do this?
Well, I believe there's an easier way and there's a better way. My motto is live better. Bigger isn't better. Better is better. Right. And I know in the beginning, any lead is a good lead. Like, it's a lead. Like, I get it. But what you want to do is think long-term. What activities do you want to do on a daily basis 5 years from now? Do you still want to be grinding and doing the cold calling and doing all these things 5 years from now? My answer is probably not. I mean, there are some people that do it for years and years and years, and bless them, I get it, but I don't get it, right? So what I suggest is, when we talked about a little bit about all of the different things you could do in real estate to generate leads, right? What I press on the newer agents that I coach and I teach is, you're going to hear all of these different things, but trust me in the fact when I tell you that growing your own personal database and your own relationship-based business should absolutely be number one. Because I don't care what Zillow does or what any of these other digital things that are going to come at us. I don't know why I'm having lack of words right now, but no matter what happens in the real estate industry over the next so many years, if you have a strong relationship with your 100, 200, 300 people in your database that are people that you know personally, if you saw them in the grocery store, they would say hello to you. That's the people I'm talking about. And if you grow that and deepen those relationships, even if there is an easy button 3 years from now for them to sell their home, us getting the messaging to them like, hey, before you click an easy button, make sure you call me and here's why, right? I always feel like if you have that relationship-based business, you're going to be ahead of the game. So currently, our business is over 90% relationship-based, previous clients, referrals. And of course, you're going to build that over years, but the only way to build that is to stay in contact and actually treat the relationship-based business side, and this is just my opinion, it could be different than Andrea's, is 80% of your time, energy, and effort with people that you know, 20% of your time, energy, effort, and funding to people you don't know. People you don't know would be open house leads, internet leads, FSBOs, expireds. So when we talk about the division, 80% is going to be this relationship-based business, and 20% is going to be what we call transactional business. Transactional business is a transaction that you're doing with someone that you didn't previously know. The 80% is going to be a transaction that you're doing with someone that you're either in relationship with or was referred to you by someone you're in relationship with. So I think understanding early on that you want that 80%, your third, fourth year in the business, you won't have to convince for sale by owners they're dumb for selling on their own, right? I mean, like these are things that we do, but we don't want to do forever. And we can do them forever to supplement our relationship-based business, but to really focus on all of them equally, to me, is where I think people get confused.
Right.
Or they think the relationship it's just too easy. The people are there anyway. I have to focus on internet, or I have to focus on the next, I call them shiny squirrels, right? Of what's going on in the business. What is this person doing? What is this person doing? And if I could say anything to you, it's like, focus on the people that know, love, and trust you, and build that up over years. And we can talk about different ways to do that, but I wanted to open it back up to you to see if you wanted me to go in a different direction or.
Well, one of the things I want to kind of peel back a little bit is, so I always tell people to start with writing that list. I like to say 100, but I'll give them a break and say 50 people that they know. Right. And this seems to be the hardest thing ever in life for people.
Yes.
They're like, I don't know anyone. But then you open up your Facebook and it's like, well, what about all those people? You have 2,000 friends over there,
Right.
So, and I think that people don't know how to connect, right? Or I don't know if it's afraid to connect with them, or they don't know how to connect. So say you have this list of, we'll say Facebook, you have this 2,000 friend list of Facebook and seem to be a little intimidated or afraid to connect, don't know what to say. Can you share some tips on how do you connect with people? How do you build that engagement? How do you become someone that they know, like, and trust?
Absolutely. So I got a few things for you if you want to write this down. So 2,000 friends, that's great. I think it's too many to focus on, to be honest with you. And I'm all about categorizing your people. And again, this is where it's like, I want you to think gray instead of black and white. As long as you're categorizing your people, it doesn't matter how you do it. You can have a top 50, you could have a top 20, you could have a top 100. Ideally, I would love, after someone's in the business for 2 years, to have a solid list of 300 homes or households, addresses that they can send a mailing to. Like, that would be a good 2-year goal. Exactly what you said. When they're brand new, we tell them, get a list of 100. They're struggling. They're like, I think I have 35. Like, I get the same thing. So these are some exercises to grow your list. Okay. So the first thing I want you to do is just scroll through your Facebook friends list. And I want you to take a regular piece of notebook paper with lines on it, a regular pen. I want you to hand write down people that you would know if you were passing them in the grocery store and you'd want to say hello. If you don't want to say hello to them, you do not put them on your list. Okay. That's key number one, because you want to create energy around your list that it's something you're going to enjoy doing. So if you got people on there that you don't particularly like, don't put them on there, right? Because we want to do business with people we like and who know, love, and trust us. So I would suggest you go through your Facebook, number one, and hand write down people that are in your marketplace or near your marketplace that could use you or refer you. So you got Facebook. The second one would be your phone. Scroll through your entire address book. The cool part is for 10 years now, Verizon and AT&T have allowed us to transfer our contacts. I mean, maybe I'm just old, but back in the day, you couldn't do that when you got a new phone. But you've got probably thousands of people in there, and you're like, oh, yeah, I know this person. And if I saw them in the grocery store, I would say hello. Again, you're going to handwrite them down on your list, right? Another exercise is, so I did your Facebook, your phone. This is what I tell people. It's a great mind exercise for you. If I were to tell you, I have a $10,000 budget for you, I'm going to host a big old barbecue in your backyard, and I'm going to bring Beyonce or Jay-Z or one of your favorite artists to come to this barbecue. And I told you you were allowed to invite 300 people. Who would you invite? Mm-hmm. It's a wonderful exercise to figure out who should be in your database, right? So I think with those three things, you should be able to come up with a list of 100 people, 200 people. Another thing is you think about where you get your hair done, right? Well, who else do I know who also gets their hair done there that could be in my database, right? Or where you get your nails done, or where you get your car serviced, or the car salesman that you actually go to every couple years when you get a new car, or whatever you do. You have these other business owners that you frequent business to. Who else do you know that uses their business? And who else do they know that you know, right? It's like, oh, well, I know this business owner. Who else do I know that knows them as well, right? And you just really have to kind of brainstorm a little deeper to find this list of people. Does that make sense?
Yes, very good. Thank you for those tips.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the difference between working on your business and working in your business.
Perfect. So working on your business, a lot of people will use this word. I think it's more of like an evil word because people, put all of this weight on it. It's called prospecting. So I don't use that word. I use growth activity. What growth activity are you going to use to work on your business and grow your business? What are the most effective growth activities that you could do every day? And so here's a really great exercise. And I want you to look personally inside yourself. Don't look around to see what everybody else is doing. If I told Andrea, you only are allowed 45 minutes of growth activity for real estate every day, that's all you're allowed, what would be the most effective thing for Andrea to do? It's going to be different than the most effective thing for Yana to do. It's going to be different for the most effective thing for Tamika to do, right? It's going to be unique to yourself. So I always think working on your business means you got to shut the lights off to everybody else and focus on that growth activity. Because if you do that 45 minutes of growth activity every day for 90 days and you see your business growing, you're going to be like, oh, maybe I should do this for an hour, right? Don't burden yourself of, I have to do 3 hours of prospecting every day, because what happens with that is you never do it, right? Mm-hmm. And so working on your business to generate growth is number one, and then being reactive and working in your business. Working in your business is answering emails, answering texts, showing clients. So I always tell people, the light switch on means that you're on. We are in the service industry, and guess what? People are going to call you. They're going to ask you questions. They're going to need you to solve all their problems. They're going to need you for a marriage counselor, all that stuff, right? But when it comes to growing your business and the growth activity, you need to turn that light switch off. You might even need to power your phone off. And so when you're doing growth activities on Facebook or growth activities with handwritten notes, your phone is not even on. Mm-hmm. That is the key to focusing, is to making sure that you commit to certain growth activities every day that are going to be most effective for you. And maybe it is a for sale by owner campaign. That's okay. Maybe you're writing letters to for sale by owners, printing out their MLS sheet, doing whatever your 4-step for sale by owner thing is that you created, right? That maybe that's part of your growth activity, but you always have to have that light switch off time where you can do that growth activity every day.
So do you suggest that they time block their day to first thing or do those growth activities first thing of the day? Is there some sort of priority that they should set for that?
Yeah. So I have a lot of people say, oh, I'm better at night, or, oh, I have so much stuff to do in the morning. I'd rather do it in the afternoon. And so what I always say is that the reason it's better to do it first thing in the morning is you have more control over your environment and who comes into your environment before 9 a.m. than after 9 a.m. And so, and I'm going to use the word ego again in a very positive way. Our ego loves, as humans, we love to solve problems. We love to be needed. We love to help that buyer. That first-time home buyer is so excited. They want to see 3 houses today between 12 and 3. I get the text at 8:20 a.m. I am on it, right? I want to solve that, schedule that. The problem is if you don't turn that light switch off and do those growth activities, they will never get done, because the growth activities don't actually feed our ego, because we're pushing out growth instead of receiving requests and solving problems, receiving a request and solving a problem. So just so if you understand that your brain and your heart are addicted to helping people, which is not a bad thing. That's why we're all successful in this business. But you have to understand, in order for you to achieve your 5-year dream and your goal, you have to turn the light switch off and tell your ego to calm down for 45 minutes to an hour and do your growth activity. It could be between 5 and 6 a.m. before your kids get up, or it could be before 9 a.m. But I always say, make it early, before you check your emails, before you browse Facebook and get sucked in, right? You've got to make sure that you get those growth activities out. So it's not necessarily time blocking your whole morning.
Right.
I would rather an agent stay true to 30 minutes of growth activity every single day and then be reactive the rest of the day than act like they're going to time block their whole day and do none of it.
Right. Okay.
Do what's attainable for you.
Okay.
Set yourself up for a win with that. Yeah.
So there are a ton of agents in the marketplace that are part-time agents and have the dream and goal of becoming full-time agents, but unfortunately, many of them aren't successful with doing this. They're kind of stuck working another job and then trying to transition over to full-time. Is there any tips that you can share for someone who really wants to just get over that hump? Part of it just has to do with how we get paid as real estate agents. We're commission based, and you are planning on this deal to close and it just falls into the next month, and who knows when it will close. So it's that income factor, that inconsistency of when we get paid is what I find a lot of times. But what can agents do to kind of flip that switch?
So I have a few things. If you're in a full-time career and it takes a lot of your mind space, you'll hear me refer to mind space often, because there are some jobs that you can clock in and you could do a 6 or 8 hour shift and it's like mind numbing. Like you don't have to do any sort of real thinking. Perfect. But if you have a lot of responsibility, let's say you're managing a Dairy Queen or something like that, right? That's a lot of mind space and energy that you have to use, and that's getting sucked out of you. And then there's nothing left for real estate. So that's the first awareness I want to bring you to, is that you might, if your ultimate dream is to exit working and come into real estate, can you find something that doesn't suck all of your mental energy for the 8 hours? Does that make sense? Like, so that would be my first suggestion, to be honest, is like, a lot of people are like, well, why would I give up this job that's this much per hour and take one that's this much per hour? And that's because you only need this much to survive for the next 6 months as you transition and execute your plan.
Mhm.
And so maybe build up your savings so that you can do that. So you can take a job that's less taxing on your brain and your energy. Okay. So
Mhm.
that's the first suggestion. But the other thing would be the same thing. It's all the mindset of what's the best time that I could do growth activity? And for me, what is the best growth activity for me to do? And if I commit to doing that every single day, you will eventually crawl out of that full-time job. I think it's more of feeling like these are all of the things everyone's telling me I have to do in real estate. And with a full-time job, there's just no way I can do them.
Mhm.
Right? It's just a totally different mindset. So I think maybe talking to a mentor like you, or and kind of reviewing your plan of like, this is what I was planning on doing, and this is the only amount of time I have. This is what I think would be most effective. Can you give me feedback on that? Right? I think don't overload yourself with feeling like you're going to be able to do all of the things that full-time agents do, because you just won't. So it's just setting that expectation of yourself and figuring out how you can transition from working full-time to working part-time and so on. So maybe it is doing showings for an agent like you that has enough business that could pay someone to do showings. Maybe they drop down to part-time, figuring something out like that. But I don't know if that helps, but I just think a lot of times they keep that higher paying full-time job and they think they're going to be up here with that. And then they can't quit until real estate's here, and they want it to be an even switch.
Right.
And what I would say is reduce your mental capacity in your work so that you can slowly build this up
Mhm.
to where then you're like, okay, if I just get rid of this and jump here, I can move up.
Right.
That makes sense. So
Absolutely.
planning a transition, probably.
Right. So, what tools should we're getting ready to go into 2021?
Mhm.
So, what tools do we need? What systems or tools should an agent have in kind of like their toolbox for success?
Okay. So, and again, this is just in alignment with my relationship-based business. Everybody asks me like, what's your favorite CRM? And I'm like, well, my favorite one is the one you'll use.
Right.
Right. But you've already heard that joke all the time. But I still, to this day, 15 years later, I use a Google spreadsheet because I can go in there and quickly print labels. I have little tabs at the bottom. These are the ones I send the Cleveland sports schedules to. This is my Christmas card list. This is my, and some people are repeated on each list, but one of them's the farm of my neighborhood, right? And I just have them on tabs at the bottom. And then every so often I update the database with new sales, or if one of our clients moved from one address to another, we have to change their address, right? So a Google Sheets database is my number one tool, is have your people somewhere. The other thing I love is, remember that notebook paper I told you to write the names down on? I'm like a colored highlighter person, right? So maybe I go through and I just do a little check mark if I've sent them a private message, direct message, or text, and
Mhm.
just physically check them off. Like, even if I'm not a digital person and I don't even look at the spreadsheet, I at least have a list of my 300 people. Maybe you print out that spreadsheet and you highlight when you do that. But I think in your toolbox, people are looking for scripts, right? And so I'm going to give you an idea of how to connect with your people, because you asked me that earlier. So that would be my next thing, is have your database, number one, as a tool. And the second thing would be have the confidence in how you're going to connect with people. And that tool is going to be up here in your head, and I'm going to tell you what to do. So if I'm going to connect with Andrea, I'm going to go to her Facebook and just check out what she's posted, right? And I'm going to connect with Andrea as Jacqui based on the relationship I have with Andrea. I'm not going to connect with Andrea based on that I'm Jacqui Bowman, a realtor. Like, I'm going to take my realtor hat off so that I can connect with Andrea.
Mhm.
I'm going to start a conversation with her. Andrea, I absolutely loved your dog in his Halloween costume. He is adorable. Did you make the costume yourself, or where did you get it? Okay. So I complimented her and I asked her an open-ended question that I know she will want to answer, because my goal is to connect. So you don't need a script.
Yep.
So the tool is, you don't need a tool. The tool is, you need to think with your head and your heart and connect as a person, as a human being, not as a real estate agent. And I promise you, as you have conversations, whether you commit to 2 connections a day or 5 connections a day, the luckier you'll be when someone's like, it's so funny you contacted me today, Jacqui. I was just thinking about listing my home. You're a realtor, right? Absolutely, right? And so I think the next tool would be, if you're comfortable, connect. So I would say have your list is number 1, and connect, having the confidence to connect is number 2. That's the only 2 tools I could think of at this moment that I think are most important.
I think that was excellent. It gives folks a lot to go off of, where to start, how to start those conversations with people and not seem so businessy. And that's what I think people have to get past. No, you're just being yourself. You're connecting with people. You act like you care, you know.
Right. Right. Well, and that's the thing. I think a lot of times we think we have to say the realtor thing.
Yeah.
Like we have to say the realtor line to try to get someone to list. It's, do you know anybody that's looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? Do you have any? It's like, no, I'm not doing that for the next 15 years.
Yeah.
But I am going to connect and love on people and make deposits.
Right.
So, cool.
Okay. So again, 2021 is almost here, right?
Yep.
So some agents are new, they're building their business. There's other agents that may have been in this business 5, 10 plus years, and they just need to hit that reset button, right? And 2020 coronavirus has shown us that even if you have that 9-to-5 job, right, that could be snatched away, and that maybe you need to pay a little bit more attention to your real estate business, because we are essential, that we found out. And so because of that, we found that, you know, maybe if we pay a little bit more attention over here, we can generate some additional income and not to have to worry as much if our jobs are shut down, if the plug is pulled, multiple streams of income, right? We need to hit the reset button. We need to get back on track. For 2021, that's our goal. So we are in October now until the end of the year. What should agents be working on right now as they prepare for 2021 to hit the ground running?
Yeah. So clean up your database, expand it to, and I'm talking to agents now who've been in the business a while. Make sure you have a solid 300 people, 300 home addresses or apartments if they haven't bought a house yet, right? You have 300 addresses to people. I would say either do a holiday card with a letter or do a Happy New Year with a calendar. I'm a big fan of the magnet on the fridge. That's a calendar that stays there all year long. By the time you do postage and the calendar, it comes out to about $1 each. So you're looking at $300. I get it. It's a cost. Telling you it's the best $300 you ever spent, especially if you follow up with being present in their life throughout the year on Facebook, texting, social media, that kind of thing. Because those 2 things work together. You're branding yourself and you care. And so you're validating yourself as an agent. So I would say that, but there's one other thing I want to show you that I think is huge. Oh, here it is. So this is my favorite book to share with agents, especially when they think they need to do a business plan. Hold on one second. This 12-week year book has been absolutely amazing. In the beginning of the book, he talks about creating your 5-year vision. I know some of you have probably done vision boards before, things like that, but you want to read this book. It's called The 12-Week Year. Get more done in 12 weeks than others do in 12 months. And it's by Brian Moran. And I'm an Audible person, so I got it on Audible because I don't like to read. But then I ended up getting the hard copy because it's really very task oriented and you'll really want to use it well. So I have not done an annual business plan in 3 years because I've done the 12-week year, and you will literally get more done in 12 weeks than most get done in 12 months. I promise you. It's really cool.
Thanks for sharing. I love books.
Yeah. So if you're going into 2021, don't do an annual plan. Get this book.
Okay.
And plan out your next 12 weeks. And when you're done with that, you plan your next 12. And when you're done with that, you plan your next 12, all based on your 5-year vision.
Okay.
And stuff will be in alignment. Yeah.
So what do you say to that agent? They've been in business for 10 years, right? So 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, they sold properties to some sellers, owners, buyers, whatever, and they have not contacted them since 5, 6, 10 years ago. Should they reach out to those people, and what should they say to them?
I love that question. I was like, is she going to stump me? But you're not. You only got 9 minutes. No, this is actually my favorite question. Because you've been in the business 10 years, you've got all these past clients, you're going to see that some of them moved and they moved without you. So make sure you look them up on the tax record. Okay. But they're still stored in your phone, right? You still stored their cell phone number 8 years ago and it's in there, right? So what do you say to them? So I'm going to call Andrea and I'm going to say, hey, Andrea, this is Jacqui Bowman. I was your real estate agent back in 2010. Do you remember me? And you're going to be like, I think so. Right? But most of the time, I guarantee you, they're going to say, absolutely, I remember you, right? Because you reminded them of who you are. Then it takes them back. They remember because you took them to 33 houses. So I'm sure they remember who you are, right? So I just say, do you remember me? Absolutely, we remember you. Well, I owe you an apology, Andrea, because typically as a real estate agent, I should have been keeping in touch with you. How are things going? How is the house? So this is where knowing if they've moved or not is essential, right? I'm going to be honest with you. This is probably not the strong coach answer. If they've already moved without me, I may or may not keep them on my list, depending on how much I liked them, right? But if they haven't moved, right, I'm going to add them to my database now. So I'm going to say, hey, Andrea, I wanted to owe you an apology because typically as a real estate agent, I should have been for the past 10 years been in contact with you. And I just wanted to tell you, I am so sorry for not calling you. But now I'm actually sitting down and going through all of my past sales and I'm connecting with everybody. And it's been really fun for me. So how have you been? And typically Andrea is going to tell me, Jacqui, you do not owe me an apology. That it's totally fine. We've been great. So what I could tell you is if you are human, I mean, think about when a human being comes to you in a vulnerable position and tells you they're sorry for not contacting you for the past 10 years. How are you going to react to that?
You're going to be,
oh, it's okay. Don't worry about it. I'm so glad you called, right? So I ask her how her and the family are doing. And then I also let her know, hey, just so you know, I know you're probably not looking to buy or sell anytime soon, but I just wanted to reconnect and also let you know that if you need anything that has to do with the maintenance of your home, I want you to call me because I know painters, electricians, people that do windows and siding, landscapers. Do you have any plans of any home improvements over the next 6 or 12 months where I could give you a referral? Right? Yeah. So now I have a reason to find someone to be a painter and give them that referral. And Andrea, I don't know if you have a local preferred vendor list that you use, but put one together. If you guys need one, get one from Andrea. But that is my go-to script. It's called the apology script. I call her. I disclose to her who I am, just in case she didn't remember. I apologize to her. That's why it's called the apology script. And then I offer her to be a resource for home improvements, snow plowing, all of that stuff, right? And just say, hey, I'm not here just for real estate. I'm here for you to be a resource for anything that has to do with your home, right?
Yep. So that just goes to show you guys, if she said you can do it for a 10-year-old past client, then you can definitely do it if it's been a year or 2 years.
Right. Right. So that's the one. And then I add them to that mailing list and I give them that annual calendar. I mean, if you were to do something between now and the end of the year, that would be it. Especially if you've been in for 5-10 years, get all those people, go apologize to all of them, friend them on Facebook and get them on that mailing list and send them a calendar. And I'm telling you, your 2021, you won't have to do the cold calling or the door knocking, or if you do these things for the next year or two, I promise you, your business is going to grow bigger than you ever thought.
So two more questions before we're almost at our time.
I know, I'll talk fast.
Okay. The first question is about what have you learned about real estate with COVID-19?
Ooh. I learned that we all got scared because we made up all these stories in our head of how this was going to affect our business. And I honestly, in March, I'm like, this is going to crush us, right? Like we were all freaked out, right? And what I learned is every circumstance is neutral, and we need to stop making up the stories in our head and just go with what we can handle today. And that's what I did most of my coaching on in March, April, May. People were kind of freaking out. We didn't really know. And it's like, you know what? What's the most effective thing I, Jacqui, could do today for my family and my business and move forward? And I think if you just focus on the day, in any situation, whether it's COVID-19 or something else that happens in this world that could yank us, right? Just focusing on what can I do for the day and take it one day at a time.
Yes. And
Don't
then
get paralyzed.
thank you.
Yeah, don't get paralyzed, right?
Last question is there something that you want to share that maybe I didn't ask you about here that you think is important?
No, I think I hit it all. I would just say if I wanted to leave you with my main in my heart point that I'd love to have you take to heart is when you're growing your relationship-based business, there's two key elements to get people to call you for real estate. The first one, everybody understands and they get. I want people to know, love, and trust me. I have to be present in their lives. I have to make deposits and keep them on that list of 300 and be present so that when they think of real estate, they think of me. We all know that one. Mm-hmm. But number two, I want you to write down. So number one was know, love, and trust me. You're my friend. Mm-hmm. Number two, I want you to write this down. Validate yourself, or I have to validate myself as being the best agent of choice and competent to serve them. I think a lot of people know us from our college years. Maybe we were drinking too much, or maybe they, it's a cousin or it's my aunt or somebody like that. And it's like, oh, well, my aunt might not trust me because I'm just her niece. She doesn't know that I'm a competent agent and I've done 50 or 100 transactions in my career, right? So it's not only know, love, and trust me, but it's validate yourself as an agent of choice and being the best agent to serve them or be referred out. So I think it's just that second piece that people don't want to be salesy to their friends. And that's where I teach people how to do market updates and things like that online. Send them a neighborhood snapshot of just their house, right? That's a growth activity you could do. You could do 2 of them a day and just to your top 100, give them a quick snapshot of their neighborhood off of the MLS. It validates you as knowing the market. So those are the two things. Know, love, and trust, and validate yourself to those 300 people consistently in any way you think fits you in your communication.
Now, we don't have a lot of times, guys, but if you have any questions, type it in the chat. And,
absolutely. I can hang out for a minute or two. Absolutely.
Shami said, great call and advice. I took a lot of notes and ordered the book. I'm going to order that book too.
Yes, this book is amazing, y'all. Don't even worry about doing an annual business plan every year with all the numbers and all the this and all the that. This guy is amazing. He's boring to listen to. You got to listen to him at double speed. I'm just telling you, he's boring, but this is amazing. I've taught this class quite a few times. So if I do teach it locally, Andrea, I will let you know. Yeah. But it's a great book. Mm-hmm.
Someone said they're going to be ordering the book today as well.
Cool. Yeah, forget your annual plan. Just do that.
Thank you, Jacqui, so much. You gave us so much information. I appreciate you. Thank you for sharing over here. I know you're so busy. So thank you again.
It was my pleasure. I enjoyed. Hopefully I'll get to meet all of you someday when COVID's not a big old thing. Right. All right, everyone, have a great rest of your day. And I'm going to leave and then I'll let Andrea wrap up with you.
Okay, guys. So thank you guys for joining. I'm going to continue to provide some training I work with a lot of agents, so I'm always hearing different levels of the business. So I try to bring something a little bit different. It may not be necessarily continuing education wise, but definitely things that are tools or resources to help grow your business. Going to be my focus as I'm going into 2021 myself. Thank you for joining. I do have one ask from all of you. If you could please provide a testimonial, I'll send out a link of just share if you like this information so I know what to continue on. If there's a topic that you want to learn about, please include that information as well. But if you can provide some feedback, that would be greatly appreciated. So enjoy the rest of your Monday. And I will be grabbing that book. Hopefully I see some of you as well, but I will talk to you guys next time.